Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our featured fight for UFC Paris. We have Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Bukauskas is 18-6 overall, while Craig is 17-9-1. Now, overall in their last five, Bukauskas is 4-1 in his last five. Craig is 1-3-1 in his last five. Now, of those, now I'm sure some of you might know this. For those of you who don't know, I love talking about fighting. Bukauskas, this is his second stint in the UFC. His first one, he went 1-4 in those four fights. He beat Andreas Michailidis, then 3-fight skid. But you look at the names, right? Jimmy Crute, who at that time was a surging prospect, Mikhail Alexiouchuk, who's a very tough fighter, and then that terrible oblique kick loss to Khalil Roundtree. Then he rebounds pretty well, gets 2 wins in Cage Warriors, where he becomes their light heavyweight world champion. Then he comes back, beats Tyson Pedro, then of these 5 fights, beats Zach Payunga. His only loss on the second stint is to Vitor Petrino, who is a plus athlete and caught him with the perfect check left hook. But since then, he's riding a 3-fight win streak, beating Marcin Prachnio, KO'd Rafael Sequeira, and then most recently beat Ion Cutelaba last May in UFC 315. Meanwhile, Craig, not been looking good for the Scotsman. His last win against Andre Muniz was a little over 2 years ago, about 2 years and a month. Since then, he has lost 3 straight to Brendan Allen by submission, and Caio Borralho by knockout, and Bo Nickel by decision. Now his last fight was the no contest to Rodolfo Bellato, where he upkicked him while Bellato was down. And, a lot of people go, what an Oscar-winning performance and whatnot. Yeah, it's still, at the end of the day, Paul Craig cheated, so that's how I see it. But anyway, it's crazy to think that Paul Craig holds a win over the current champion in Magomed Ankalaev, and is still Magomed's only loss to this date. But then you think of Paul Craig's skills, and at this point, it's very well documented. You know his skill set. He is a specialist, a very, very good, I will say, submission specialist, especially for light heavyweight. I will say his move down to middleweight did not bear much fruit, not being Andre Muniz at that time the way he did. I thought it was pretty impressive, beating him on the ground. But then Brendan Allen showed levels. Caio Borralho did not play the game. And Bo Nickel, it was pretty much an underperformance and pretty boring. But, he still got away with the win. And then, I was picking Bellato to beat Paul Craig. I'm sure a lot of people were. And then, like I said, upkicked. But in his prime, however, Paul Craig was a very dangerous throw on the ground. If you were in Paul Craig's guard, you had to be absolutely perfect. Or just get the hell out of there. Because if you stayed in his guard, it's snap, tap, or nap. Especially his triangle choke, where he beat many greats like Ankalaev, Canadian Jetsuku. He put an armbar on Jamal Hill, but still, you get my point. His guard is absolutely nasty. Meanwhile, Bukauskas, he's a pretty all-round fighter. I'd say he's much more of a striker than he is a grappler, but he did submit Marcin Prachnio with an arm triangle. So I will say he is well-rounded. He can pivot to a wrestling if he wants, and he can grapple if he wants, but primarily he's a striker who likes to use space and movement, and he'll come in and out of range pretty effectively, unless they're really hurt, like he did Sequeira, and then knock him out cold. And now granted, back in his first stint, when he fought pressure-based fighters, there was definitely moments where it seemed like it was just right the ship. Like he couldn't right the ship whenever opponents would start pressuring him, and that's where a lot of his problems had, like I said, in his first stint. Like you look at the Khalil Roundtree fight, Khalil was pressuring him a good bit, really, and hurt him every time he touched him. But now you look at him how he is now. He's better at cutting angles. He's proven to have a lot better footwork. And you look at Ion Cutelaba, who's an ultra-aggressive bully, someone who I guarantee you if Bukauskas in his first stint fought Cutelaba, he would have lost. Now he beat him. Now granted, it was a split decision. Some people say Cutelaba won, but you get my point. When Bukauskas has proven that he's much better at cutting his angles, he's much better with his footwork, he's better at overall different angles of attack with his strikes. He's improved vastly. He is very improved. I wouldn't say much I wouldn't call it so much a resurgence as much as retooling his existing skill sets. Now, overall betting lines, I mean, obviously, Bukauskas is a massive favorite. He's minus 330, Paul Craig plus 260. And he's getting up there in age, like 37. He'll be 38 pretty soon. And physical specs all in all, they're roughly the same. 6'3 to 6'3, 78 each range for Bukauskas, 76 for Craig. Craig's striking, I mean, he's very much a fish out of water. His best weapons are his kicks, for sure. And they're not terrible kicks. They're kind of traditional karate, more or less. But that's really all he throws. He'll throw kicks to keep opponents at range. And then when an opponent does get him in the clinch, he'll pull guard, which is not something you want to see, right? Especially because we're at a day and age now where a lot of young athletes are training MMA in comparison to one skill set. And nowadays, specialists, whether you're striker, grappler, wrestler, doesn't cut it anymore. But it's crazy to think Craig made it work for as long as he did. There was a time he was like unbeaten with 6 fights. 6-fight unbeaten streak, 5 wins, 1, I think it was, the draw, the Shogun. Then he beat him in the rematch. Then he beat like Canadian Jetsuku, Jamal Hill, Nikita Krylov, who at the time was really good. Krylov's still a good fighter, but I don't know where he is right now. Overall, there was a time where Paul Craig seemed like a good contender, and then lost to Volkan Oezdemir, lost to Johnny Walker, tried his hand at middleweight. It didn't work out as he was hoping. And now, I'm not going to say he's washed, per se, because I take that back. I don't like calling fighters bum. I understand when you say they're washed or like past their prime. Paul Craig's clearly past their prime. He's taken a lot of damage. And usually his way of fighting was like he'd take a beating and you would get tired from hitting him so much that eventually you're going to make a mistake. He's going to submit you because he literally has wins in the 3rd round with like 30 seconds left. Hell, his win over Ankalaev was literally 1 second until the bell in a fight where he was getting beaten pillar to post. But he's just not the same anymore. He can't take a punch like he did. He's going to get battered, I think, pretty badly. And I'm sure he understands this. This fight is his job, right? He knows that if he loses, he's probably going to get cut from the UFC. He'll be winless in his last 5 in over 2 years. So I see a more aggressive Paul Craig coming out, and I think that's going to spell disaster because I see Modestas couching him pretty early. I see him hurting him. I don't see him being dumb. I don't see him playing the guard game. I'll tell you this right now. If Modestas Bukauskas decides to enter Paul Craig's guard, that's one of the most foolish things I can think of. Because even at 37, Paul Craig's still dangerous with his guard. And you don't want to play the game. It's just dumb when you have a clear path to avenue. But I don't see that happening. I see Modestas Bukauskas winning. I'm 100% certain that you can knock Paul Craig out. Does it get past the round? That's the question I have. That mainly, like, if you're gonna bet anything, like Bukauskas, you could probably put him in a parlay. It's pretty safe to say. And even knockouts, like, I think it's a pretty safe bet, all things considered. The only question I have is this going to go over 1.5 or under 1.5? I'm leaning slightly towards a little over 1.5. Paul Craig, at the end of the day, I give him this. Even at the age he's at now, is a good survivor. He can survive getting hurt. He can survive a lot of damage and come back. But there are times where he gets battered, rocked, and usually knocked out by past 1.5 rounds. So I'm leaning towards that for the knockout. But if he gets starched in round 1, I wouldn't be shocked. But overall, that is my prediction for today's video. Next up, we have our co-main event, Benoit Saint-Denis versus Marcinho Ruffi. I'm even more excited to talk about that fight. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But until then, I'll see you next time.